She came home completely broke. And if you don't have somebody in your life who is lost or feels behind, I want to play a little selfie video for you that she took of herself in her bedroom upstairs while she was living here at home with her parents at the age of 25, feeling broke and lost and not knowing what to do with.
My face is so puffy. And it's all because I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. I want to make a lot of money, as everyone does, but as a 25-year-old coming home from an extraordinary trip, I'm thinking I'm gonna make so much money off the bat. I'm not. And I also haven't done anything to make money either. No! I'm dying. I feel like there's a million things to do and I can't do anything. My to-do list feels like so long, but on my to-do list is like, call so-and-so, catch up with blank, stop crying. Oh my god. Oh god. I will be okay.
Yes, you will be okay. And yes, you're going to figure it out. And you don't have to figure it out today. And you don't have to figure it out next week. All you got to do is keep telling yourself, I'm going to figure this out. I am capable of putting one foot in front of the other. I am capable of networking with people. I am capable of landing a job and feeling it out. I'm capable of leaving a job if I don't like it. I'm capable of moving to another city. I'm capable of saving money because the decade of your 20s is not where you're supposed to figure it out. It's the decade of possibility where you have so many experiences because you're figuring out who you are and what you like. And none of that can be distilled down into a checklist. And so instead of trying to check the boxes, I want you to take a step back. I want you to see that the 20s right now are really different, that it is challenging, it is overwhelming, it is confusing. And so feeling that way is normal. But the best thing that you can do is to remind yourself that you don't need to figure it out. Nobody has it figured out. But step by step, day by day, you have to remind yourself that you have the ability to explore, to make changes, to learn about yourself. And if you do that, I promise you, you are going to wake up at the end of your 20s and go, not only am I doing okay, but I've learned a lot about myself. And you're also doing better than you think you are. And if you're listening right now and there's a 20 something in your life, that's exactly what you need to say to them. You are going to figure this out. Your 20s are very hard. This hybrid work thing is so confusing. Trying to network with people that don't even show up to an office, it is really difficult. You're right. And guess what? You're still going to figure it out. And I'm going to be here every step of the way to support you in doing it. So stop putting the pressure on yourself, take a breath, go for a walk, and then take the next right step. That's what we need to be saying to the 20 somethings in our life. So if your 20s are the decade of possibility, now let's talk about your 30s, because the biggest lie that the social clock and this invisible checklist is telling you is that you're supposed to, quote, settle down. You got to meet the one, you got to have kids, you got to find the house and settle down and move to the burbs. That is not what you have to do. If that's what you want to do, fine, but that's not what you have to do. This checklist was created. Let's remind ourselves this checklist was created based on a time when the average life expectancy was in the 50s. This is your grandparents' checklist. And so it doesn't have to be yours. Your 30s is a decade where you've told yourself this lie that you have to settle down. Like, this is the decade where you got to find the one, you have to have your kids, you have to buy a house, And while those are amazing things to do in your life, if those are things that you want to do, the pressure that you feel is complete BS. There seem to be two major items on the checklist that people hold themselves accountable to in their 30s, and that is the house that you need to buy and the marriage and the kids that you need to have. And I'm going to unpack them both one by one. And I've been getting a lot of messages from people recently, and I want to read one from a listener named Shauna. She writes, Mel, I recently turned 35. I've been somewhat single for 5 years, and I have a big wish to be a mom. I've always loved and wanted children. Taking care of kids is second nature to me. But as the months roll by, and as I've matched my thousandth match on all the dating apps that I've been on for 4 years, I'm hitting a wall of despair. My life is not budging. The apps aren't apping. Meeting people in real life is not a thing anymore, as no one ever talks to me when I go out. I don't have eligible single friends, nor are there friends of friends left. I can't be the only woman in this situation, and I don't know how to go on living like this. Well, first of all, yes, you do. You do know how to go on living. You're going to go on living. And based on what I'm going to unpack for you, I'm going to give you a sense of power and freedom that I want you to really embrace in your 30s, because what you're feeling is extraordinarily common. And there is a big difference between the topic of having children and the reality that I need you to take seriously versus the pressure that you feel to do it by a certain time and the pressure that people also feel during this decade to find the one, to get married, to buy the house. Okay. So let's talk about the pressure to have kids because I want to be extremely responsible about that. The decade of your 30s is not the decade when you're supposed to settle down. The decade of your 30s, in my opinion, is where you need to dig into the research and settle in on what matters to you. This is particularly true when it comes to kids. Just because you haven't gotten pregnant yet, you haven't met the one yet, you're not a mom yet, doesn't mean you're not going to be one. But when it comes to the topic of having kids, it is critical in your 30s that you be honest with yourself about what you actually want. Because for women in particular, there is a biological deadline if you want to have your own biological children. So let's take fertility, for example. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists say that a woman's best chance at getting pregnant is in her late teens to her late 20s, and fertility does start to decline around 30 and starts to drop off more significantly around 35. So, what does that mean for you? That means that you don't need to settle down, but you need to be honest with yourself about what you want. And you've already done that part. You want to be a mom. You'd love to have children of your own. Great. If you're 35, that means you need to freeze your eggs. Do not gaslight yourself. Do not hold out on this. Follow the research and the medical facts and set yourself up to be able to make a decision in the future. Yes, the biological clock is a very real thing, which is why I want you to understand there are very real options that you have to make sure you don't miss the window. And just because it feels like this sense that, oh my God, I'm 35 and there's this checklist and there's a social clock and the door, is closing, it doesn't mean your life is. It doesn't mean the options are closing. And you will feel so empowered if you take the step to freeze your eggs, which is what I would recommend that you do if this is something that you're serious about. Here's another thing that I would get serious about. If you're in a relationship right now and you know you want kids and your partner's like, I don't know if I want kids or not, do not waste this decade with somebody who does not want the same things that you want. Do not tell yourself that the person is going to change your mind. Because if you continue to stay in a relationship with somebody who does not share the same vision for life, who does not have the same values for what you want, on something as important as whether or not you're going to have kids, do not do that to yourself because you will waste the rest of this decade with a person that you hope changes their mind. And then the door will be closed and you're going to regret this for the rest of your life. And so you got to be very serious. Again, this is not where you settle down and you settle when it comes to your values and your vision for your life. Your 30s is where you get honest with yourself about some core things. But now I want to talk to you if you're in a situation where, like, okay, I get it. And I still want to find the love of my life. I want that for you. And you are going to find the love of your life. And here's what I want to say about that, though. I wrote about this a lot and researched this in the Let Them theory. And I think there's some important research if you, quote, haven't met the one. You've dated a lot of people or you've been in a bunch of relationships and it hasn't turned into a long term committed relationship. There's very interesting too of the Let Them theory book. I also address this fallacy that the purpose of dating is to find the one. And I think this is a reason why dating is so hard is that you don't understand the true purpose. You're not just trying to find the one. Dating is helping you learn more about yourself and what you want and what you don't want. And the let them theory is going to be super important for you because you got to let people show you who they are and you got to focus on what you actually want to feel and the type of person that you want to be with. Because the more time you spend chasing the wrong people, the longer it's going to take you to find the right one. And one of the most important lessons that you're going to learn is the kind of behavior that you will not accept, the kind of person you truly want to be with. And if you get so obsessed with finding the one and you feel so much pressure because of this stupid social clock as to when you're supposed to be in a committed long term relationship, you weren't put on the earth to be somebody's wife or husband. You are here to fulfill your dreams, share your story, and create a big, beautiful, amazing life. No one else is going to create that life for you. The person you choose to love gets to share that life with. And so it's important to understand that you're learning more about yourself. And here's what I want you to do. It's easy to close yourself off. See, if you focus on the social clock, and I should have been finding the person by now. I'm 35. It's too. If you start doing that, you get pickier. That's an interesting thing. You get pickier because you're looking for a needle in the haystack. That's not actually how you meet somebody that amplifies you. You actually have to do the opposite. You have to become more flexible. You have to be willing to be less choosy and meet more people. You got to be more open to lots of different types of people because ultimately, the more people that you meet, the more you open yourself up to people of different heights, of different backgrounds, of different body types, of different professions. Ultimately, it will lead you to choosing someone amazing who makes you feel incredible, who chooses you back. And look, I get it. It's kind of hard to embrace this idea that you've got to be more open. But I promise you, when you realize that it's your own insecurity and desperation around this that's narrowing the field, you got to do the opposite and open yourself up to new experiences and new people and change the filters, is what everybody says. Change the filters, change the height filter, change the mileage filter, open yourself up. I promise you, the love of your life is just around the corner. In fact, if you knew that the love of your life were right around the corner, how would you be living your life differently now? There you go. All right, let's talk about the third big thing that is one of these milestones on the checklist in your 30s, which is I got to buy a house. I got to buy a house. I got to have my first house. I got to have a house. Got to have a house. I got to buy a house. I want to share if you're in your 30s or heck 40s or 50s and you're wanting to buy a home and you're somewhere in the world where you feel like it feels out of reach. Like, when did real estate become so expensive? Because you're not wrong. Real estate is just shocking is the wrong word. It's unfair, in my opinion, what's happened. I want to share some research with you because it's different. I'm sorry, it's different than the situation that your parents and grandparents were in when they were buying their first home. The American dream in particular is now was the primary vehicle where people could establish wealth, which is buying a home, is no longer the primary, like is not accessible to a lot of people anymore. And let me just hit you with some of the facts. You ready? So in 1950, the $300, $7,300. Some of you may be paying that in rent every 2 or 3 months. I think you could afford a house at $7,300. But if we were to convert that in today's dollars, what would the actual cost be adjusted for inflation? in today's dollars. If we were looking at kind of like, okay, well, if we do apples to apples, if your parents were paying 7,300 adjusted for today's dollars, that would be 88. What would the actual cost be adjusted for inflation in today's dollars? If we were looking at kind of like, okay, well, if your parents were paying 711.91, the average home buyer was 35 years old. Today, the average home buyer 56 years old. If you live in a world where the average home buyer is 56 years old, why on earth would you tell yourself you have to have a house by the age of 30? Why are you putting so much pressure on yourself to do this? And if you're wondering, wow, it just seems like rents and housing costs have gone up significantly in the last couple of years. It has. In the last 3 years, the housing market in Boston has gone up 73%. You're not imagining this. This is the reality. And I'm sure you've even seen this in your own neighborhood. The world has changed, which means you got to change the expectations and the pressure that you put on yourself. First of all, hybrid work coming out of the pandemic, it just imploded everything. And one of the things that it impacted is real estate costs because people that were living in big cities could move to smaller markets, which meant all of a sudden there was this huge bubble everywhere, even in places where normally it would cost way less to buy a house. Another reason, a lot of people don't talk about this, they invested in real estate. So did private equity. That's why you've got situations where there's no rental stock, why it's impossible to buy a house. This is a reality. And I'm not saying this to make you depressed. I'm saying it because how are you possibly going to settle down if you're not accepting where the world is right now? And so here's what I want you to do. If buying your own home is an important core value to you, fantastic. And I personally believe that you can figure out how to do it and you can figure out how to do it in a great place and you can find a house and you can buy a house and you can fix up a house. If that's your dream, wonderful. But I want you to stop holding this checklist or this social clock over your head. And I want you to embrace reality that things have changed. The real estate market is different. And I want you to do your research, just like I'm asking you to do the research around kids. Do the research. Embrace the fact that this is not something that has a timeline. It's a dream that you own, and there are things that you can do to set yourself up for it. It might take you 4 or 5 years to save the money to get a house. It might take you researching, going to auction on houses going to foreclosure. You might decide when you do the research, hey, you know what I've realized? I actually want to rent where I am. But maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to look into buying a small little unit that I can rent that's in a place that I want to move to in 5 years. And so I'm a way that's super cool. I'm going to rent a house, move up there in about 5 to 10 years. I'm going to have paid off a lot of that mortgage. I'm going to be sitting really pretty. In fact, I not only now have a house, the landscape is different. Understations is important. Now you don't have to. 40s when you think you screwed up my life. Well, actually the 50 and you my life. Well, actually the 50 and you can too. So the lie that people tell themselves about baloney off from this job that I thought vision in my career. I mean, I told you earlier about the number of career changes that I had had in my 20s. I kept bouncing from one thing to the other in my 30s. I mean, I'm talking another 7 different pivots. And so here I am 41. And now I'm feeling I don't have any money. We've invested everything in my husband's restaurant business. That's now failing. So you want to talk about that sense that you're not only behind. I thought there's no way I'm getting out of debt. There's no way I'm getting the liens off the house. There's no way I'm going to be able to pay for my kids' college. There's no way I'm ever going to be successful in my career. That's how I felt at the age of 41. I wasn't just behind when you hit your 40s. And one of the best things about being in your 40, your financial life is a complete train wreck like mine was. You can build on 7 more years. Do you know how much you can get done in 37 years? And here's the thing I want you to really think about. If you're going to hold yourself to a standard that by the age of 40, you should have things figured out, that means that you can kind of figure things out over the next couple decades, okay? You got plenty of time. And beating yourself up and telling yourself that you're lost and telling yourself that you've screwed up, do you know what that does? It doesn't motivate you. It actually makes you depressed. It makes you feel like a loser. And you're not a loser. You just have a winding path. You are probably just stubborn like I am, and you learn lessons the hard way. You explored a lot and now you know a lot. And so you cannot afford to tell yourself this stupid lie that it's too late, that you're behind, that you've screwed it up, that you can't turn it around because it's complete BS. If I can do it, you can do it. And it's not just me. Do you know Vera Wang, the famous fashion designer, wedding designer? She started designing wedding dresses at the age of 40. Samuel L. Jackson landed that role in Pulp Fiction when she published her work of people that you know. You have a number of experiences, you have a lot of lessons that you've learned. And now, you know what you have in your 40s that you didn't have in your 30s? You have a sense of urgency, and you can use that to your advantage. Take everything that's happened in your career to this date and say, you know what? I'm going to figure this out in my decade. I'm going to triple down and I'm going to go for it. Your 40s aren't a finish line forward in your career. You can do something new. You can build on what you've learned, the mistakes that you've made. That's why the 40s are incredible. And by the way, the other reason why the 40s is really fun to do is because everybody around you is so distracted, typically raising kids or they're engaged in their career. That's true about all the decades, but in the 40s in particular, you're going to notice people don't care as much, and you're not going to care as much either. Um, and here's another statistic that I want to give to you. Maybe things haven't worked out because you're supposed to do your own thing. Maybe your 40s is where you take that interest that you had or that side hustle or that thing you've always imagined doing and you actually launch your own thing. Do you know this is research from a study at MIT Sloan School of Business? The average age of a successful startup founder, 45. Kind of cool, huh? You want to know why the average age is 45? Because you have a certain amount of wisdom and a certain amount of failure and a certain amount of clarity after 4 decades of your life about who you are and what your strengths are and what you're interested in. And you're also sick of the BS. And so you can laser focus in on what you actually want to do. And for me, it was my 40s where I got tired of my own excuses and I forced myself to do it. And I think that's the invitation that your 40s have for you. If you don't like where you are, then stop listening to your excuses and use this decade to change your life. If you've been sitting around waiting for somebody else to come rescue you, stop gaslighting yourself and take responsibility for creating what you want. Because it was my 40s and that rock bottom moment that forced me to discover the strength that I have and the capacity that I have. You have that exact same ability, and your 40s are your invitation to get honest with yourself and get to work. All right, let's talk about our 50s. The lie you're going to tell yourself is that when you hit 50, because it's kind of that midpoint in life that you're supposed to have some sort of crisis. No, you're not. It's not the midlife crisis. I actually think you're speaker to starting a media production company and working with companies like JP Morgan and Starbucks and Ulta Beauty and Audible. I was 54 when I started the Mel Robbins podcast, which, as I'm talking to you right now, is the #1 ranked podcast in the entire world. #1. As a 56-year-old woman sitting above my garage in Vermont, in the entire world. #1. Never done that before and leaning into all. I think that is so freaking cool. And it's an example that if you look at your 50s, not as I'm behind, I should have been here, da, 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 da. Are you crazy? This is where you get to play. This is where reinvention is a thing. Because for most of us in our 50s, if you've had the kind of life where you've been raising kids or you've been climbing the ladder at work or you've been busy caring for everybody else, this is where you get to think about yourself. That doesn't mean you don't still have to care for kids or care for aging parents or you don't have a demanding career. But what if this were a decade where you stopped lying to yourself and saying it's too late to start over? And you started telling yourself the truth, which is your 50s are the decade of reinvention. Everybody that I know that's in their 50s is doing something cool right now. And if you are listening and you have parents in their 50s, please send this to them. Please remind your parents that they are super cool and there's so many cool things that they could be doing, because everybody that I know in their 50s right now is thinking about this. Like they're either thinking about it from the standpoint of what do I want to do next, or they're thinking about it from the standpoint of, all right, I've taken care of the kids and everybody else. What do I want to do? What's the contribution I want to make? In fact, my husband, I'm so proud of him, Christopher Robbins. For the last 5 years, when he was in his 50s, he started a men's retreat called Soul Degree. He only does three of them a year. He has also gotten a certificate to be a death doula. He also is working on his first book. I'm so excited about this book. I can't tell you about it. I'm going to have to let him tell you about it when he's finished writing. But he writes every day for an hour. How cool is that? And the man is also getting a master's in spiritual psychology right now. He just applied online and he's doing it remotely. Isn't that so cool? That's available to you. I really feel like thinking about 50s as giving yourself permission to reimagine what's possible. And that goes for everything. If you're divorced, you're going to meet the love of your life. If you're married, you want to know the best marriage? It's the second marriage to the first person. That's the best marriage. When you reimagine what's possible with the person that you've been with for the last 20 to 30 years. I feel more connected to Chris now because of what we're doing to improve our relationship in our 50s and being like really intentional about how we're showing up and changing old patterns. Like it's the coolest thing ever. So it's not too late. It's actually just the beginning of a whole new chapter of your life and a decade where you can reimagine everything. And, I've got this message from Laura where she wrote and said, Mel, I'm a recent empty nester to twins. So, boom, it happened all at once. I have no idea what I want to happen now. I've been a caretaker for my family, and now I'm not. I have a small crafting business, but it doesn't really excite me. It just brings me some extra money, so I feel like I contribute a little financially. The last 14 years, I've volunteered at the schools, but that chapter's closed. I believe I wanted to get involved in some kind of charity, but I'm not sure what, or maybe start something of my own that would benefit my town locally, or maybe leave a legacy. I'm just not sure what direction I should go in. You know what's cool about this is that it's kind of like your 20s. Give yourself permission. You don't have to pick a direction. Explore them all and see what feels right. And you don't have to figure it out by the end of this year. What if you give yourself your 50s to explore all kinds of things? And that's part of the process of reinventing yourself. And so I want to say a couple things, though, because there was some great research about being in your 50s. And this will also be true as we get into 60s and beyond from Robert Waldinger, our professor at Harvard Medical School from the Harvard Study of Adult Development. He basically said that one of the coolest things about reaching your 50s and beyond is that the kids are gone and you can finally start to think about yourself again. One of the coolest things about this phase of your life is that you've been through some hard things. And I want you to give yourself credit for that. Like you've experienced loss, you've experienced job changes, you may have gone through a divorce, and you have a lot more wisdom and life experience, which means you also have resilience that you need to give yourself credit for. And there's this kind of confidence that comes up where you sort of are like, this is who I am. Take me or leave me. Let them, right? You sort of start accepting yourself. And yes, while you still are going to worry about other people in your life in this period of your life, this is a moment where you need to really double down on yourself. In fact, there's some really interesting research from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development in the UK. 73% of job growth over the last 30 years has come for people over 50. So don't be lying to yourself and telling yourself that there are no opportunities. It's completely wrong. And if you are going back into the workforce, there's really great research from LinkedIn. They did this big thing about the future of work, and they're calling this era a skills-based economy. And whether you've had a long career or you're changing careers or you're going back into the workforce, stop telling yourself you're too old. You have skills from your life experience, communication, project management. If there are things that you want to learn, there are so many classes online that you can take to brush up on skills related to tech, related to project management, related to AI, and all of that is available to you. The other thing that the research is very clear about is the 50s is a period in your life where friendship really matters. This is a moment where you want to pivot away from a primary focus of caregiving and of just burying yourself in your career and reprioritize friendship. It is critical for you to double down on being proactive and starting to build a community. Because one of the things that you're going to learn about as we jump into how the social clock and this invisible checklist is lying to people in their 60s and beyond is the importance of friendship, the importance of having social connections. And so your 50s, it's not too late. You can reinvent yourself. You can fluff up your social life. In fact, you can meet some of the best friends of your life from this point forward, and you will if you lean into it and you stop lying to yourself. So that brings me to the 60s, where there's a lot of lying that people do to themselves about it's time to retire. In 1935, Social Security Act set 65 as the age of retirement, and we all just kind of followed in line. Who says you have to retire at 65? Who says you have to work into your 60s if you don't want to? This is your life. Don't live it based on other people's expectations. Figure out what's going to make you happy. Figure out what's going to bring you meaning. In fact, here's a message from Alyssa who wrote in to melrobbins.com/podcast. Mel, to retire or not, I'm struggling with the challenges of retirement, money, no clear plans, and the fear of being forgotten. What if I don't want to retire, but everyone around me keeps asking me, when are you going to retire? Like for me personally, I'm never retiring. I don't want to retire. I don't want to retire because, first of all, I love what I do. I love learning. I love the connection to everybody on my team. I love having a sense of purpose. And I believe that 60s is not a time to slow down. 60s is not a time to retire. 60s is the decade where I want you to reignite your passion for life. That's what I want you to do. And when I hear in this question, should I retire? Should I not retire? You know what I hear? I hear pressure. I hear expectation. I hear a social clock that's so dumb. How about answering that question from, well, what is going to reignite passion? And passion is just a fancy word for energy. What brings energy into your life? And look, if you want to retire from your job because you hate it and you've, stayed for a pension or you've saved enough money and now you can do something else, great. But maybe do something else that energizes you or brings you passion. Or maybe you're in the camp that a lot of people are in, where you are the way that the housing market has changed, the cost of living, the chaos in the news, the up and down in the stock market. All this stuff is impacting. And the age of retirement hit at 65 in 1935. The life expectancy wasn't that high. And now you're living longer. And so the reality might be that you planned for a certain age, but now that you're there, you're like, wait a minute, I'm really engaged. I don't want to just sit around and fill it with golf and mahjong. I mean, I want to be doing something. And that's a really cool thing. Or maybe the reality is, or you have a health condition and so you need the insurance. That's just the reality. And so it's not a time to pressure yourself to retire unless you want to. It's a time to really think about passion and how you reignite it in your life. What can you be doing, whether it's volunteering or a different type of job or staying in what you're currently doing to keep decline in verbal memory? There's an uptick because you underestimate how important it was to be engaged in a community at work, to be focused on the things that you are working on and how it stimulates your brain, the rhythm and the structure of your work life, and how it gives you a sense of purpose and how it gets you out of bed in the morning. The same is true with what I was talking about with your 20s. If all you're doing is hybrid work and you've never experienced that, not having that structure creates its own isolation and sense of being lost. The fastest growing segment of the workforce is people 65 and older. I love that people are staying engaged. I love that. And I want you to really think about it. And if you're starting to feel like, well, just think about what's next. Just because you're leaving one job or you're closing the door on one chapter of your career, do you know how much you have to give to a nonprofit, or you have to give to a new venture, or you have to give by sitting on boards? Stay involved because it's really going to help you stay energized and passionate in your life. When you decide to retire, choose to do it because it's what you want to do, not because society expects you, not because society expects you to do it. You're not behind, you're not ahead. You're just living your life based on a way that 60s. I want to just highlight the research, and this is important for you to share with people that you love. It is critical that you get involved in something else. It is critical that you stay social. Do not underestimate how important this is. And do not underestimate how much that is provided by the fact that you're still working. And so there is no timeline, there is no checklist. There is just the research and the reality of where you're at and the reality of where you are in history. And so focus, focus, focus on reigniting your passion. And that brings me to what's possible in your 70s and beyond. This is not the decade to slow down. In fact, there was an expert that we had on the podcast by the name of Dr. Vonda Wright. She is a world renowned orthopedic surgeon and researcher in longevity. And what she had to say about aging blew my mind. Everybody that you care about, your parents, your grandparents, need to hear this clip. Just check out what Dr. Vonda Wright has to say about getting older.
There is a pervasive myth in this country that aging is an inevitable decline from the vitality of youth down some slippery slope to frailty, where we spend the last 20 years of our lives dying. But the fact of the matter is, we actually can be healthy, vital, active, joyful. But people think that they have to go down this slippery slope and that there's nothing they can do about it. But the fact of the matter is, there's so much we can do to pre-plan our future.
And what I love about her research is that it doesn't matter if you took the worst care of yourself up until this point. Your muscles and your brain are designed to grow and get stronger until the day you die. There are things that you can start doing now that will increase your mobility, your movement, your strength, your vitality, your energy. It is never too late to fully experience the possibilities of your life. And I think that is such an exciting message that you don't have to slow down. I personally, I want to be dancing the day I die. I literally want to go, 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 and boom, drop dead. That's exactly what I want to do. Now, is it going to happen? I don't know. But I hold that vision for my life, and I hold that vision for you too. It's not a time to slow down. It's a time to get strong and to stay strong and to be connected and to be social and to have more fun. And one of the things that's more important than ever is connection. If there were ever a decade to double down on your relationship with your family, your friends, your loved ones, it's now. Relationships matter. And here's what I'm going to tell you. If there are things you need to apologize for, if there's somebody that you have not forgiven, if there is someone that you've never said I love you to, now's the time. It doesn't matter what's gone down in the past. There are always ways that you can build bridges to people and create a different future. And being proactive about creating stronger connections with your loved ones, with friends, meeting new friends, heck, even finding love again. You know, one of the things that's very inspiring to me is that my mother-in-law has been a widower for 19 years. She has found the second love of her life at the age of 85. How cool is that? I mean, she's giggling like a teenager, for crying out loud. They're so cute together. I just love truth that your body is designed to move. Your body is designed to be strong. Your mind really wants to learn and be connected, and it can. That what brings meaning into your life, particularly near the end of your life, is connection to friends and family, and you can build it. And in fact, I was talking with my parents the other day. My mom is 76 and my dad is 80. And, you know, their community where they are over the winters in Florida has really shrunk, either because people are no longer coming down or they're getting older. And a lot of their friends who are a decade older than my parents, they're dying, which is like super sad. And I was saying to my dad the other day, like, what do you think you guys want to do in the next couple years? You know, do you want to stay in your house? Do you want to go? And my dad was so cute. He was like, well, we're really thinking about it. We're thinking about where we might want to be. And we're thinking about the possibility of making lots of new friends and getting re-engaged in a new community. And I just think that's so disconnected and grumpy and grouchy. It's not true. It's simply not true. And the science is there to prove it. And the evidence is all around you. In fact, let me just give you some really fun statistic. Betty White. Betty White worked until she passed away at 99. Dick Van Dyke just starred in a Coldplay music video. George H.W. Bush, my dad talks about this a lot. He's like, I think I want to do that. Went skydiving on his 90th birthday. If they can do it, so can you. In fact, one of the other cool things that's available to all of us is tech. We complain a lot about social media, but do you know how many 90-year-olds have millions of followers on TikTok? One of my favorite is Grandma Droniak. She's hilarious. You might even million TikTok followers. The channel is managed by her grandson, Kevin, which I also love because that's an example of how she's being proactive to stay connected with her grandson, and she's having fun all the way until she drops dead. Just listen to this. It's hilarious.
Get ready with me. My first date in 25 years. And he's going to pick me up in 20 minutes. I'm getting nervous now. I met him at bingo, and that's the way it goes. He's really handsome, and I couldn't say no. Powder, powder, powder. I might kiss him, you never know, but I'm going to still put lipstick on. Just in case.
You know what I love about that? You can tell she's having fun. And I think that brings us back to the whole point of this conversation. Who says you're supposed to be a certain way at 90? It's complete BS. You can be any way you want. And if you can be any way that you want, if you can do whatever you want in the decades of your life, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to have fun? Why wouldn't you want to re-engage in your passion? Why wouldn't you want to stop pressuring yourself and holding these expectations over yourself and lying to yourself? You're not lost. You're not behind. It's not too late. You have plenty of time to figure things out, and you will. And now is the time to stop holding the social clock over your head, to delete this invisible checklist, and to double down on where you are in your life, what you want, the moment of history that you're in, and imagine a bigger possibility and remind yourself every step of the way, this is your life. Stop comparing. Stop apologizing. Stop telling yourself behind because you're not. You're right on time. You are capable of figuring this out, and you will. And I believe in your ability to create a better life. And I think what we've learned today is recognizing when you're holding yourself to somebody else's or society's expectations, that's not how you're going to create a better life. That's how you're going to stress yourself out, make yourself depressed, and drive yourself crazy. So stop doing it. Creating a better life requires you to take ownership of where you are and what you actually want and how you want to feel. And I'm here to remind you, and I hope you will start reminding yourself that whatever it is that you decide you want to create in this decade of your life, you are capable of doing it. Now get to work. And thank you for being here with me on YouTube. I know you want to watch another video. I would check out this one next. I don't know what is in the air, but wow, you guys are flooding melrobbins.com and the DMs with questions about whether or not you're getting used. There is a big difference between being used by somebody and being in a situation where somebody is used to the situation. I've got 5 takeaways that I'm going to share with you. And the first one is this. Hey, it's your friend Mel, and welcome to an extremely useful episode of the Mel Robbins podcast. I don't know what is in the air, but wow, you guys are flooding melrobbins.com and the DMs with questions about whether or not you're getting used. And I'm noticing a theme that as you listen to more and more episodes of the Mel Robbins podcast, something is coming alive inside you, and you're realizing that there are changes that you want to make, that there is a version of you that you want to bring forth, that there's a higher or truer or more empowered you. And as you start to make the changes, you start to notice, other people around me are not changing. And starting to feel like maybe I'm getting a little used. And so today, you are going to hear from 2 listeners who are struggling with this topic. Am I getting used? And more importantly, what do I do about it if I think I am? And I want to just say something about this in case you're new. Welcome. by the way. I'm Mel Robbins. I'm a New York Times bestselling author and one of the world's leading experts on habits and motivation and change. And I do believe that inside all of us, there is this higher calling. There is a truer version of you that is longing to come forth. And if you're starting to tap into that for yourself, you'll notice that you get impatient with people around you who are not. You start to notice people who are not growing the way that you are growing. And that's normal. And today we're going to unpack the topic of how do I know if I'm getting used and what do I do about it if I am? And we're going to start that process with a question from a listener named Crystal.
Hey Mel, it's Crystal and I have a big question. How to know if you're being used? I have 2 adult siblings that have always lived with me. One has been unemployed for more than 3 years. Last week, my working sibling was placed on PIP. I've always been the big breadwinner, and they and my mom all lived in my home. My mom passed away 4 years ago. It's becoming increasingly difficult to motivate them and or get them to understand the weight of responsibility is on me. I'm beginning to think they don't care and are enjoying the stress-free lifestyle they've become accustomed to, or they don't understand because they've never had this type of responsibility. I'm growing tired of carrying all the obligation, accountability, and responsibility. When are they going to grow up and be equal contributors or move out? Thanks for any advice. This is really eating up bandwidth in my head. I will add we had a horrendous childhood and largely why we all stayed together. There is safety in numbers and we had to have a united front against a very abusive father and ex-husband. He abused us all well into adulthood. Thanks for any insight. Thanks for all you do.
Crystal, thank you for that question, and thank you for the detail that you provided in the end. I think that's really relevant to how you handle this and how you think about the situation that you're in, okay? So I've got 5 takeaways that I'm going to share with you. And the first one is this. There is a big difference between being used by somebody and being in a situation where somebody is used to the situation. Does that make sense? I'm going to unpack this a bit because I think it's really, really important. When you're being used, that's a situation where somebody is intentionally using you or taking advantage of a situation to their benefit. They know they're doing it. For example, if you're in a job and you've basically phoned it in and you're only staying there because you want the money, but you're not actually doing what's expected of you, you are using your employer. When you sneak stuff from your roommate's side of the refrigerator, you're using them. When you intentionally do something, like invite yourself to somebody's house, even though you don't like them, but they have a great pool and it's a nice weekend, but you are not that great of a guest or you don't really, you gossip about them, you're using them. That situation is very different than what I think you're in, Crystal, which is you're in a situation where the people around you are used to the situation. They've grown accustomed to it. They are comfortable in it. And what's happened is you're now not comfortable with the situation, but they're just used to it. And so I think it's important for you, Crystal, to anchor there. And as you are listening to me unpack all of these takeaways, I want you to apply this to your situation. Are you in a situation where you're being used because somebody's leading you on, but deep down they just want sex? And yet they're telling you that this is more, but they just want sex. That's a situation where you're being used. Or are you in a situation like Crystal where the situation's been like this for a while and everybody's kind of used to it, but you're just sick of it? So you now want to change it. And the details, Crystal, in your particular situation matter because you guys are used to living together. You guys are used to being under the same roof. You said that you've been doing this for a long time. Your mom used to live with you and that there's safety in numbers. And so I believe what's happened is that you are just tired of the situation the way that it is. And that means that you are going to be the one that changes it. Because if everybody else is used to it and they're comfortable in it, they have no motivation or no interest in changing it. Why would they? It's working for them. It's just not working for you. And that's okay. So the second takeaway, you ask the question, when are my siblings going to grow up? When are they going to realize I'm frustrated? When are they going to? Never. They are never going to grow up. Why? Because they're comfortable. They're used to this. They're used to you being in charge. You've always been in charge. You've always been the breadwinner. You said as much. And so they're not going to grow up. And that's okay, everybody. That's okay. That means that you are going to have to be the grown-up and you're going to have to parent. And I'm going to get to that. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do when you're in a situation where you're trying to make the people around you level up and help you change the situation. I also want to say, for your sake, Crystal, and for anybody else, that, it sounds like you guys are all so struggling with trauma and PTSD. And so I know that that's also why you haven't shaken things up. If all three of you experienced horrific abuse, which you just said that you did, then you also have the added issue of people maybe not having healed from that trauma and maybe not being as proactive or as motivated or as self-sufficient as they could be. There was another detail in what Crystal said. She said PPI. What does that mean, everybody? It means a performance improvement plan. What that basically means is you're fucking up at work and your bosses have sat you down and they have said your work is not satisfactory and we are going to put you on a PIP, a performance improvement plan, which is very embarrassing. It's very confronting. I'm not making excuses for the sibling. I'm just trying to explain the psychology here of why they're not growing up and why they've gotten very comfortable with very low self-motivating standards. And you're now in this framework at work where you're being measured. And if you don't measure up, your ass is fired. A performance improvement plan can be a really good thing because it means that they are providing a pathway for you to be able to excel, which means they believe that you can. But oftentimes when people are set up with a PIP, they feel so ashamed and embarrassed that they just quietly quit. They feel like the writing's on the wall. They feel unmotivated and self-conscious. 90% of people, when they get put on a performance improvement plan, leave the job. Whoa. It kind of makes sense because you feel like you've been called out and you're embarrassed. And so it's really important how you set up a performance improvement plan. Because if it's literally like you suck and you're going to get fired unless you do these things, who wants to stay at that job? But if you set it up using what is called the 19-word magic sentence, this is something that's been studied at like Yale and Stanford. When you say to somebody, I have high expectations of this team, and I think you're capable of achieving them, which is why I'm going to put you on a performance improvement plan so that you know what's expected, and I believe you can achieve this. This is the path forward for success for you. That is a way that makes you want to play the game. And so, Crystal, ironically, we're going to put your family, your siblings, on a performance improvement plan, and we're going to set it up the right way. Because since it's your family, you can talk about your feelings and you can talk about your need to feel support and you can talk about these simple things that they can do that would make a huge difference in this living arrangement and in their lives and in your lives. So it can be like a really positive thing that you're going to do. So takeaways so far. You're either being used because it's conscious and intentional, or you're just in a situation where people are used to what's going on and they're not motivated to change it like you are. When will other people grow up and realize this? Never. You got to be the adult in this situation if you want to change it, because it's your life, it's your happiness. By the way, it's also your house, and it's your responsibility to lead the change that you want to see, always. Another takeaway that I want you to have is when you're around people that are not motivated to change their lives, you're probably dealing with what psychologists call learned helplessness. Now, learned helplessness was first coined in 1965 by a very famous psychologist after doing these really awful experiments with dogs. I'm not even going to explain the experiments, but basically what learned helplessness is it's when you receive a series of setbacks or you are experiencing a lot of pain and you basically give up. You decide that there's nothing that you can do. It is what it is, and you just survive and try to cope through the pain and the situation. And it's the difference between being a person who is pessimistic, that you feel like nothing's ever going to change, you're never going to be good enough, why even bother? Boss never likes my work, or I never do well at work, or my sister already takes care of things, and I'm never going to amount up to anything. Versus having an optimistic point of view. And optimism, realistic optimism, is just the belief that through your own actions and through your own attitude, you can make a positive dent in any situation. That your effort is always worth it, that trying is always worth it, that growth is available to you. And so I say this because when you're surrounded by people that have this sense that nothing they do matters, it just creates complacency and fear. And there's one thing that makes a difference when you're in this situation. And Crystal, I think that's the situation that you're in. You guys have past trauma. The situation has always been that you always take care of everything. Now you've got one of your siblings who's on a performance plan, so they're feeling kind of kicked down to the ground. So it's on you to set what are called SMART goals. For those of you who have not heard about SMART goals, we will link to the article that was written in 1981, where 3 researchers came up with the idea of SMART goals in the context of leadership and business. But SMART goals is a very simple and effective way to think about setting goals for yourself or other people. This is going to work with your siblings. I want you to think about how the situation could be different. Put on an optimistic hat, and now we're going to paint a picture of what it would look like in the day-to-day living situation so that you feel supported. Because it's not just about the money. Are they doing anything around the house? Are they cooking? Are they caring for the yard? When it snows, do they shovel? Are they taking the trash out on Mondays? Are they making their beds in the morning? Like, what is it that would make you feel as though the dynamic has shifted, that everybody's leveled up in their own achievable way, and those actions make you feel a shift, okay? And so let's go back to SMART, specific. What are specific goals you could set? And those goals might look like you need to make your bed every morning. Those goals might look like I'm going to make a grocery list, and every Tuesday, so-and-so is going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to create a schedule for who's cooking and who's doing dishes. And since you guys aren't contributing financially, that's what you're going to do. I know I'm being very kind of like annoyingly detailed here, and maybe in a really condescending way. I don't mean to be. I'm trying to say that because people don't know what you want, which is what you should assume, and you're the one who wants the situation to be different, you have to get crystal clear, black and white, granular, meaning specific. I got to be able to measure it. It's got to be broken down so that your siblings can achieve it. It's got to be realistic, because that is how you lay a path forward for somebody who is in a hole to be successful. So the final piece, the 5th takeaway, is this. When you see your siblings doing those actions, when you see them checking the boxes, when you see them making their bed, when you see them spending an hour every day looking for a job, or you see them checking in with you for 10 minutes every night about how work went today, when you see those actions happening, you got to cheer for them. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to create an environment where somebody knows that you believe in them. They know what your expectations are. They know the defined, achievable steps that they can take in order to make you happy. And then when they do those things, you gotta cheer for them. You gotta say thank you. You gotta say I appreciate you. And why this is so important is because you're not dealing with a situation, Crystal, where you're getting used. You're in a situation where you're trying to level up your siblings. And you're trying to do it when there's issues like generational trauma and hopelessness and patterns in place and a dynamic between all of you, which means you got to get super intentional about and patterns in place and a dynamic between all of you. You got to define it. And then, like an awesome coach, a very matter of fact, professional, successful, awesome person, which is why this is frustrating. Because we all think that everybody thinks like us. We all think that all those things that you think are obvious, why do you put your stuff on the floor? Why don't you just let the dog out? Why do you leave the dead flowers in the vase on the cake? Don't you just... We think it's obvious. It's not obvious to everybody, but you can make it obvious and you can make it a game worth playing. And don't forget, you get to talk about your feelings. Guys, I love you, but I feel frustrated and I'm starting to feel a little used and I'm starting to feel very sad because I see you guys just coasting in life and I believe that there's something more for you. And so here's my request. If you're going to continue to live with me, and I want you to, I need you to show up differently. And here is what I need from you. And I know you can achieve this. It would make a huge difference for me. And if you don't think you can do that, then maybe it's come to the point where we can't live together. But I need this support from you guys. And you might be surprised at how they show up if you frame it in the support that you need from them. It would probably feel really good to know that I could actually do something that my sister would appreciate and feel supported by instead of feeling like the one that's not successful. So that's another way to look at it. But gosh, I really appreciate your question. So thank you. All right. So that's question number one. But don't you dare go anywhere, because coming up, I'm going to be coaching a listener of this podcast live. Her name is Brooke. And Brooke's boyfriend has not worked for 2 years. And she's feeling used. And she has no idea how to bring this up with him because she wants him to get a job. She wants things to change, but she's scared he's going to leave. We got all of that coming up next. Welcome back. I'm Mel Robbins. Today we're talking about what you do when you are feeling used and how you can inspire people around you to level up the game of life without trying to fix them. And I can't wait to jump in with this next listener. Her name is Brooke. She wrote to me because her boyfriend hasn't worked in 2 years. And honestly, she's tired of it. So let's get Brooke on the line. Brooke, hi. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So tell me, you're so cute. I love your glasses.
Oh, thank you. I like yours too.
And the photos behind you are so cool.
Oh, thank you. That's actually of my best friend. She just passed away a little over a year ago.
Oh, that sucks.
I know, it really does.
Yeah. How can I help you?
So I just would love your advice on this. I have a boyfriend whom I love a lot for many reasons, but he hasn't worked in almost 2 years. He lives with me and isn't contributing financially, and it feels he doesn't see a problem with it. When I bring up getting a job, he gets defensive and often leads to not only a conversation that ends up not being productive, but he becomes more distant. He doesn't have a close relationship with his friends and family. I am his closest person in his life. And I have learned that makes it really difficult to persuade him or encourage him. I want to be supportive and allow him to have his own process of change, but it's frustrating because I'm paying for everything. And I also feel like I can't fully trust him and he's turning away from me. I'm not sure if he's using me or he's going to become what I feel he's capable of becoming, which is a greater version of himself and find a job and be better. This relationship feels toxic, but also feels, unique. But this is the greatest issue that I'm having right now, and I just don't know how to go about it.
Gotcha. So that was great. And now I want you to just talk to me and tell me what's going on, like a friend. Okay. So what's going on, Brooke?
Well, actually, right now, I've been finding that, besides the work situation, we have been getting, our relationship has not felt as toxic. We haven't been fighting, we've been getting along. Um, I just don't bring it up. I don't bring up him not working as much because it does lead to friction. I can immediately see his uncomfortability in it, and he just kind of shuts down and gets defensive. So I kind of leave it alone. But I can't keep leaving it alone. Like, I really feel it's inappropriate that this is what's going on.
Yeah. How long have you, how long, does he know you're talking to me?
He does. I made him leave the house, so he couldn't hear what was going on.
And how did he feel about you talking to me?
Good. He was supportive. I didn't go into detail about what it was about. He knows I listen to your podcast all the time though, and I make him listen to it too, or I'll like sneak it on when like I'm driving in the car, because that's usually when I listen to you anyways. Um, I just Me and my sister were just talking about this the other day. I feel like with, listening to your podcast, I feel like I am realizing things that I need to change and I'm doing it, but no one else around me in everyday life is doing the same things. So I'm trying to be patient and like using different tools. And she was laughing. She's like, I feel the same way. Like it's so hard to, you want to just like show, like put you in everybody's face and like get them to understand it and feel the same way and change. But that's not always what happens.
Well, I want to get some facts. So how long have you been with your boyfriend?
Just about 3 years.
Okay. And for how long has he been unemployed?
It's going on 2 years now. It was January of last year that he officially stopped working completely. And then when he was working, and he kind of wasn't doing that great, like he was going there late, and his boss was getting frustrated with him. And then I think his boss actually ended up letting him go.
Mm-hmm.
And he just hasn't been motivated to do anything since. He was incarcerated for 8 years as well. And I don't know what that's like. And he does say a lot of times that he believes that that could have something to do with where he's at in his life. And he gets very frustrated with that.
I'm sure.
I don't know how to help him in that way at all. I want to be supportive, but I also need support too.
Yes. Yes, you do. You deserve support. And I'm glad you reached out for help. And there's a couple things that I want to say right off the bat because I'm going to ask a few more details.
Okay.
It's important for you to know that in the beginning of my career, I worked for legal aid and I was a criminal defense attorney. And so I represented in the early parts of my career people like your boyfriend who were either accused of or convicted. It's important for you to know that. And so I represented to do a much better job as a society in rehabilitating, in empowering, and incarcerated, because there is no question that the re-entry into life outside of the jail system is very jarring, traumatic, isolating. And one of the things that I know a lot of people that I represented really struggled with is not only the rejection and the scrutiny that you face when you get out, and in some states, the laws that make it very, very difficult for you to truly find meaningful work, is that the structure of being incarcerated is completely removed. And even though it is horrendous to experience any time behind bars, there is this kind of certainty that you come to rely on in terms of the day-to-day schedule. And so for somebody like your boyfriend to get fired and lose that day-to-day structure, it does not surprise me at all that he has spiraled mentally, that he has not got any motivation, and that this has been a very challenging situation for you to watch as well. And so I'm saying that because I want you to know that I'm bringing a level of not firsthand experience, but having either represented or counseled or kind of coached people that are in this exact situation. This is more complex than, say, Christopher Robin's, my husband, losing his job because of the added shame that you feel, the added discrimination that he's probably experiencing when he goes in to try to find a job. And was he in jail for a felony? Or, well, it must have been a felony because it was 8 years. Was it a violent crime, or was it more of that sort of white collar, as they say, crime of financial fraud, that kind of stuff?
Well, it was a pretty I guess you could consider it violent. It was armed robbery. It was a young kid
Yeah,
and it was with a cat.
he fucked up.
Yeah, and right, and it was a shame because he was so young when he went. I do understand that he is not that person anymore and
Yeah.
has lost a lot of time. What he often tells me, and before I started, working on myself, I used to get very defensive and kind of just, you know, stab him with my words, and because he really feels like he is owed something.
Hmm.
He feels that he doesn't even know what he wants to do, who he is. Like he just got into skateboarding, and at first I was like, you're not a child, you know what I mean? You need to work. This is real life is people have responsibilities. And, my dad would get involved too. And really kind of, I felt like I was bullying him in a sense, now that I have some different perspective. And I do want to be supportive and I don't want to be bullying him and I don't want to discourage him more than he already is. I
Right.
feel that he has so much potential. He's so smart. He's fluent in sign language because his mother is deaf. He is like can figure out how to do anything. He's very capable and he presents himself very well. He's just not applying himself. He's just not going out there, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. And it's starting to freak me out.
It should freak you out because 2 years is a very long time.
Mhm.
2 years is plenty of time to let somebody coast. And I agree with you. It is time for the dynamic to change. And what you're really asking, and this is what's universal in your question, and one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you, is that we all have the experience in life of seeing the potential in somebody that we care deeply about and doing whatever we can to support, to push, to cajole, to like whatever we can to try to get that person that we care about to see their potential too. And the truth is that at some point, if the person stays stuck and you start to feel, as you said you do, am I getting used? Like, what is going on here? Something's got to change. You have to change the way you're showing up. And the reason why I say this is because while he's going to have to do the work to tap into his own potential, we've got to disrupt the dynamic between the two of you in a healthy way so that your kindness and your generosity and your patience is not enabling him
Right.
to stay stuck where he is. And I believe in this deeply for a number of reasons. Number one, I do think when somebody's really struggling, they need your compassion, they need your support, they need all of that. But if you start to share how it makes you feel to watch them struggle and you start to offer up things that they could do, and he is actively not doing those things, then what's happening is you're now, after 2 years, standing by watching. So this is a really common thing that we all face. I can think of somebody that I care deeply about who's really frustrated with her husband who drinks too much and needs to lose 50 pounds. And they had a really big scare where he threw his back out and he couldn't get out of bed. And he was so big, she had to get 3 other guys over to get him to go from being horizontal to standing up. And it scared the shit out of her. And when you get to the point where you're sort of like at the end of your rope, you care about this person, you feel guilty about being tough with them, they get defensive when you have to change your strategy. And I relate to this, Brooke, deeply because I remember when Chris left the restaurant business, he was a shell of himself, complete problem with alcohol, and just devastated because he had not provided. He felt he had failed in his career. And I looked at him and I was like, number one, you got to get sober. And number two, you got to talk to a therapist. Those are non-negotiable.
Yeah,
And
therapist too. I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off at all, but I really feel like he needs to see a therapist for several different reasons, clearly. And I don't see him being too receptive of that too. There was a time where he talked a little bit about it, but I just, he's very closed-minded right now. And I'm sorry,
okay.
and I didn't mean to turn that into go in a
No,
different direction with what you were saying, but I did want to throw that in there. That's very important too.
it is very important. And this is where your strategy can change. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You've paid all the bills for how long?
For 2 years, I guess technically. I mean, even when he was working, girl, wasn't
Okay.
contributing too much, but
You've been paying the bill for 2 years. How does it make you feel to have all that responsibility on your shoulders?
well, in one way, it makes me feel good because I am getting it accomplished, but I feel like he's taking advantage of.
Okay. Um, one of the things that I want you to change is you need to have a conversation with him and you need to say, I can't do the work for you, but it is breaking my heart to watch you struggle and to, in my opinion, not see you taking the proactive steps to change this. And so I have new boundaries that I need to express for myself. And that is, if this relationship's going to work, you must go to therapy once a week for 3 months. Because I believe that the reason why, because I believe you have PTSD from being incarcerated. I don't see you take once a week, then this is not going to work and you're going to have to move out. I will pay for it, but you have to be willing to meet me halfway because I can't stand by and watch somebody I love self-destructing. And I've given you 2 years to try to figure it out on your own. And what your behavior has communicated to me is that you're not capable of doing this on your own. And that's okay. You need a ladder to help you climb out of this hole. So I'm going to tell you what that ladder is. I personally agree with you. I think it is therapy. But I don't want to shove that down your throat, Brooke. So what is one behavior change that you could say to him? I can't make you do it. I am not going to force you to do it. I'm not going to guilt you into doing it. I'm just going to express a very clear boundary. We are not going to be together if you don't do this thing.
I don't really know. I guess I would like to see him, seeking out at least one thing that will be the start of helping him. And I'm not sure what that first step would be, whether it is to seek some,
I think you
professional
do
help.
know. I think you do know. Tell me, what is it? See, because here's the thing. We all make the mistake of being like, I want you to start working toward it. That's not specific. You actually have to create a structured thing that he needs to check the box on, because while he won't do it for himself, the relationship is important to him. So he will do it for you because you have expressed this boundary.
I don't know if that's true or not, but
What do you mean you don't know if it's true or not?
that's where the toxic part comes in, because honestly, I just feel like when we have conversations, because I have kind of approached this similarly to him before, and he'll say well, this is what this we had broken up for a short time recently,
Did he leave and pack up and leave the house?
Well, it took him a while to pack up until I forced him out, and then I regretted it. And,
Why did you regret it?
because of my own toxic traits, I want him back. I don't want to be alone. And I, started getting scared because, he was talking to somebody else, and it just, really freaked me out. And I do feel like I love him. I don't know. And then he throws in my face because, like, he came back, and sometimes he'll be like, well, this is, I don't know. I need to figure myself out. I told you I need to work myself. But he's not working on himself. That's not what that means. When we broke up, he wasn't working on himself. He was trying to get into another relationship. Working on himself. That's not what that means. When we broke up, he wasn't working on himself. He was trying to get into another relationship with somebody. And, he was not ever fighting, and he was like out all the time, wasn't sleeping hardly, he was really a mess. And then showing up here unannounced and breaking my heart over again, and being callous and mean. And I feel like I know this is bad. This is bad now.
Brooke.
He's not breaking your heart. You're breaking your heart. Why does that make you emotional?
I know that's true. I feel like I've abandoned myself. And, I've listened to one of your podcasts about the attachment theories. I'm definitely the anxiety version of those. He's the avoidant. And, I say sorry a million times. And I just I just feel like I, need him to love me. And I've been just not being very nice to myself, in the process of that.
When it becomes more important for somebody else to love you than it is for you to love yourself, you're in a really toxic dynamic. And I want to commend you on something. I think deep down, you know this. And what actually scares you is you're starting to tap back into your self-worth and realize that you're better than this dynamic and you deserve better than this dynamic. And it scares you because you've never been in a relationship with yourself or with somebody else where there's been a healthy dynamic. And I would imagine, I'm willing to guess, that you are attracted to men who are not available because this is what was present in your childhood. Is that true?
I'm not sure exactly. I have looked into that, and I'm sure that it is.
Well, which one of your parents do you chase more in terms of wanting affection, approval?
My mother.
And did she feel like she wasn't that available?
Yeah. Yeah, she did. Like, she was there, but she, is kind of like me as a mom right now, which I feel guilty about. She kind of cared more about her shows, and she, when, my parents got a divorce, she really wasn't like emotionally present, and she was always tougher with her words. My dad actually had left the relationship, but he, you know, gives me the world now, and I just am still trying to like get that relationship back with my mom. And I hate to say that because she'll probably watch this, and she's been really trying to, express to me lately, like, that she's sorry that that's happening again now because she's going through her own personal struggles. And right now, personally, I'm not affected by that. I do understand that. I'm an adult now, and I see things differently. And I love her dearly, and she's doing a marvelous job.
How is the dynamic with your boyfriend similar to what it was like when your mom wasn't available?
I mean, I guess I can only really talk about how I feel with how it is currently because I don't know. But I just with my boyfriend, I feel like I'm constantly just trying to be so great. And then he's gonna turn around and be like, oh wow, you're so great. And like, I love you, like you're so great. I see what you did and I see how great you are to me. And I see you in general and I love you, and I just feel like I'm constantly just trying to do that.
You are. That's why it's not enough. You're in a relationship where you're chasing somebody who is not available and who resents you for what you need and who is in so much pain and in such a hole that he can't possibly give you what you need right now. And you just keep telling yourself, so many of us fall into this trap. Okay, well, if I just try harder, I just do this, or I just do the other thing, then it's going to be okay. And then he's going to be happy. And then he's going to love me. And then it's going to be good. And then he's not going to want that woman who's 10 years younger. And you probably know that he slept with her anyway while you guys were broken up. And it's technically a broken up, so it didn't really matter. And even though it breaks your heart, you don't really talk about it. Is this the life that you want?
No, it's not. And life is too short. It's just too short. And I want to, it's too short.
I see the photos of your best friend on the wall behind you. What was her name?
Molly.
And what did she die of?
An overdose.
What would Molly tell you right now?
She always told me to get out of this relationship and that I was, I deserve so much better. It's just so confusing and I just don't know if I'm
It's not
capable of it.
confusing. It's not confusing at all. You either deserve better or you think you don't. Brooke, which is it?
I deserve better.
And if you are acting, I want you to close your eyes, okay? Close your eyes. And together, we're going to travel forward in your mind 2 years. So 2 years from now, it's a beautiful spring day. This relationship is behind you or not. You get to choose. It is the future you. And you have spent 2 years, Brooke, really healing yourself, putting yourself first, and taking actions every single day that show you that you believe you deserve the best, that you love yourself, and that your heart is worth protecting, that you come first. Tell me what your life looks like. You're waking up. What does life look like for the future Brooke 2 years from now?
I have no idea, Mel. Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I can't even picture that.
Yes, you do. Come on, let's picture it together. Imagine that I'm there with you.
I feel like I would feel a lot lighter, first of all.
Yep.
I would wake up a lot earlier and not feel like I have something to look forward to.
Yep.
I would probably be a lot more successful in my career. And I don't know.
Yes, you do.
I would just be happy and proud of myself, I feel.
What do you see yourself doing that you're not doing now that makes you proud?
I would be more present with my son.
And
I would probably be more present with my friends that I have now that I, don't really engage in as much. Sometimes I would show up more for myself.
What does that look like? Give me an example of how you're not showing up for yourself right now.
I wouldn't have days where I just feel lazy and lay in bed all day and binge watch television shows to escape my life. I don't know. I feel that's one thing I would definitely be not doing. I don't know.
Yes, you do. Stop saying you don't know. You
feel
just
like,
painted a very clear picture. Can I tell you what you just reflected back?
yes.
You'd get up earlier. You would be more present with your son. You would not lay in bed all day and waste the day binge watching TV. You would be more successful. You would be proud of yourself. And you would probably wake up and have a day full of things that you were doing, whether it was volunteering or going to do something with your son or spending time with those friends that you don't spend time with right now because you spend all your time trying to fix this guy that doesn't want to be fixed. Fixing him will not fix you. You are perfect and lovable exactly how you are. And you deserve to have somebody in your life that sees that and that wants to grow with you. And I can't do this for you. I can tell you that if you break up with him, he will find somebody else because he needs it. And only you can decide, Brooke, whether or not you deserve to put yourself first. And I guarantee you, Molly is sitting there going, girl, break up with him. And what you don't know, because you've never experienced this, is will I be able to put myself first? Will I be okay if I'm alone? And here's my answer to that. You're alone right now. Just because you have a man living in your house who you're paying for doesn't mean you're in a relationship. You are lonely. You do not see your friends. You have isolated yourself, and you have put all of your worth into this guy somehow transforming and giving you something he doesn't have to give right now. And I can tell you that with certainty because his actions demonstrate that.
I agree. I agree 100%.
So, what do you see as the next right step?
I would probably want to approach it again with him just to see. I get so confused because like he does do some kind, loving things. So I want to approach this again with him maybe.
What does that mean?
I think I want to, tell him like these, I want to set that boundary and make it real.
Let's role play. I'm going to be him. What's his name?
Adam.
Okay.
That's
All right, you ready?
Yes.
All right, so how did that thing go with Mel? Did she tell you to break up with me?
Yep, she did. No, I'm just kidding.
I knew it. I knew that bitch was going to do that.
I don't know. I don't know how to do this, Mel. I'm so sorry. You're probably not going to want to air this. This is terrible.
This is not about whether it's good or bad. You and I are practicing.
Okay, I feel so incapable
feel
of
what?
everything.
Well, do you know how you change that? You try. You have to stop letting the feeling dictate what you do. You have to visualize a happier, more confident Brooke and let her guide you right now. And it's okay to write it down and read it to him.
That's probably what I would have to do.
Well, let's rehearse this. I'm Adam. Let's go. What is the boundary?
I love you first and foremost. I just feel that I can't sit here anymore and watch you not be your greatest self. I know that you are capable and have done some very amazing things, and I feel you're not showing up right now as that version of yourself for yourself and or for me. And I want to be in this relationship. It means very much to me, but I am struggling with you not being a part of this with me together. I feel we are on a team right now because of whatever it is that you are going through that's allowing for you to be this. See, I see a lot of words. Is this going okay?
I think you're doing fantastic. Stop. Just keep talking from your heart. What is it? Tell me. Well, I get that. So, but what do I need to do? What do you mean? What's happening?
I would really like for you to find a job and start.
I've been looking for a job.
Where have you been looking for a job at?
I'm applying online.
Oh, okay. Well, have you had anybody
No,
reach out to you? Okay.
no.
What can you do about that then? Like, what is it that you can do to put yourself in a position where that's, I don't know what to say. I feel like it's something like that. Oh my gosh.
I'll tell you why it kind of went off the rails.
Okay.
Because looking for a job is not something specific.
Okay.
And he's been doing it for 2 years and it has not worked.
Right. Or he
Because-
does DoorDash, but he doesn't DoorDash. You can pick and choose your schedule in that job.
I think, why would you not tell him that he needs to go to therapy for 3 months once a week? Because that's what you actually want and that's what you think would make a difference.
That's what, yeah, I was going to say that first. I really was. And I'm scared to say that because I feel like it's not
Well,
my
then let's
right.
practice. Bullshit.
Like, I
Bullshit.
feel like,
It is your, hold on a second, Brooke. You're paying the fucking bills. He is living with you. You have let this slide for 2 fucking years, and I'm going to tell you something else. Maybe he needs you to be stronger than he is. Maybe he needs you to say, I see something better for you. And I'm not going to fucking sit here and watch you flush your life down the toilet. And you clearly have bigger issues than I can help you with. So you either get your fucking ass in therapy and I will pay for it, and you're going to go every week for 3 fucking months because you're worth it, and you need somebody to help you sort out that bullshit in your head that you're telling yourself that's keeping you down and keeping you isolated from me and keeping you acting like this. There is a better man inside, and by God, I'm not going to let my fucking son be influenced by somebody who will not pick himself up and do the work. If you can make it through jail for 8 fucking years, you can go to a therapist's office once a goddamn week while I pay for it. And you want to know something else? I don't trust you. So I am going to drive you there. And if you're unwilling to do that, you don't deserve to be here with my son. And I am not going to stand here and watch you continue to spiral. I care so much about you that I am willing to say goodbye to you. But what I am not willing to do is sit here and watch you self-destruct. How's that feel?
really great. I want to be you.